Okay, so tonight's topic is he's dead. I'm not lying. Does trauma turn you into a liar? So I just got done doing a video talking about my dad who has passed away a couple years ago, and I said he is instead of he was. So our mind plays tricks on us. And I was also, after my wedding was canceled, that I was stuck in 1992 for I don't even know how many years. So when I would try to write my checks, it could be 1998 and I wanted to write 1992. So dealing with trauma, the loss of my father. So am I lying? No. For one thing, it's kind of habitual to where he is. Your father's always been there with you since the day that you were born. And he was alive until I was in my early 50s, just a few years ago. So our mind needs to kind of catch up. And I also have talked about when my grandmother was passing. She stayed with us for a while, and every day after school, I would ask my mom, "How's grandma doing?" And then I would go see her. And after she passed, it was months before I had that urge kind of dissipate to where it was kind of a habit. You're used to somebody being there. And so the reason I am bringing this up is sometimes we can go back and go, you know what, she was lying. She said he is, but I know her father passed away. That it gets tricky when you're talking with people. I was able to catch myself and I corrected it during that video, but sometimes people continue with the conversation. It doesn't click right away that they're still speaking in the present as opposed to the past. So, how does this relate to narcissism? The narcissist, with their mind, they have where they confabulate a lot to where there's missing pieces. So they will fill in the blanks with what seems logical. They also will say things and then backtrack, saying that I never said that. So sometimes it's like off the cuff, just how, we're used to saying thank you or, somebody sneezes, you're like, bless you, that we don't even really remember what was said. And the narcissist is sometimes just trying to appease us. So they will say certain things. Also, with the confabulation, they can know what their personality is, and they'll probably be like, yeah, I probably would have done this, even though they didn't. And, with all the lies that happen, a narcissist will do omission of the truth, which can be very confusing to somebody to not know what the reality is. So that's part of the reason that we go a little bit crazy trying to figure everything out, because we have missing pieces and we're trying to fill them in. We're trying to fill them in with logic. The narcissist just fills those spaces with whatever. And I just wanted to bring it up that, since a lot of us have dealt with narcissists with flat out lying, flat out manipulation, flat out omissions, that sometimes things aren't always as they seem. So, in those kind of situations, you could have said, but didn't your father pass away? And you can clarify things, but the narcissist will get really defensive. And does trauma turn you into a liar? Let's get into it. So, with the narcissist, they are shame based, and their trauma causes them to create this false sense of ego that they need to protect. And they also had this fantasy of what life is supposed to be. So, whenever that fantasy doesn't happen, or when you are trying to hold them accountable for things, that the lies and the anger and the need to defend will or deflect will happen. So trauma can cause people to lie, because they don't want to face what is really going on within them. They don't want to self-reflect. They don't want to sometimes expose certain things about themselves. But I just thought it was interesting that sometimes there is that brain fog or the processing delay. So did I have a manipulative heart in telling you guys during that video that my father is instead of was? Sometimes there are like processing delays. I'm extremely intelligent, but it's like a denial. So when you go through the stages of grief, there are the bargaining. Denial is like the first stage. So I recognize that my father has passed away, but it's almost like, your body and your mind and your soul and everything's like all catching up. That reality takes time to set in sometimes. And I know when we're processing our relationship with a narcissist, a lot of us get stuck in it for a long time because our body and our mind are trying to catch up with reality. So for a long time, we're in that denial, we're in the bargaining, and our brain fog sets in, and we're trying to justify things or understand things, that we get stuck for a long period of time before the reality, just like the reality of my father, hits. And that's when we can start to grow. So even when we recognize things, like I recognize my father's gone, there are times you have to give yourself some grace, that it takes time to realize, is it time to leave this toxic relationship? Is the person purposely lying to me? Trauma can cause you to lie. Was mine, it was more of a misspeak, that it wasn't intentional. So it's a false truth, I guess. But when it comes to somebody not caring about the words that they use towards you, because it affects you, whether it's your self-esteem or your perception, that you lose yourself because they bring you into this altered reality and something feels off. So the narcissist will lie to protect themselves. Somebody who has trauma from being bullied might lie about their weight. They might lie, if they felt too sheltered. They might lie about their whereabouts because they don't want to be judged. They want to be the good or the bad, or the good person. So understanding trauma, understanding why people do what they do, can help you navigate the relationships. So if I misspoke and said my father is instead of was, does that mean it's worth just leaving? That you could get advice, well, she lied to you. Sometimes we need to understand the situation and ask the right kind of questions. The problem with a narcissist is you will ask the right questions. You will ask them 1,000 different ways. And it will get so frustrating because you will ask direct questions, and with the word salad that they give you, or the deflection, or kind of like a paranoia that they have, that you're accusing them of something instead of just clarifying, that it's almost impossible to ask them a question for these clarifying questions when you're like, hey, I was just asking and that didn't sound right. And it's not accusatory, but the narcissist is always on defense. They also don't want to take the time. They don't feel like talking about it. They don't feel like talking about it. That's like their selfish nature. And it starts making you feel uncomfortable. You start walking on eggshells. Once you start walking on eggshells, you're going to react different. It's going to cause the narcissist to get that power boost. So they'll see you as less than. They're going to treat you as less than. So realize trauma will cause people to lie. Trauma can cause people to be stuck in denial. Those two are two different things. But make sure you know the true story. Why is somebody misspeaking? Is it to manipulate? Is it to avoid accountability? Or is it due to something that they're going through? Maybe they're, not getting enough nutrients, so their brain's dizzy and they're not processing things, or they have other kind of things going on. But I just thought it was interesting that there are times that people don't mean to lie, but a lie comes out, which is more like a mistruth, or perception is different. My degree is in criminal justice, and sometimes people interpret things differently. Also, as time goes by, the memory recollection will be different. You might remember 2 people being there. Now all of a sudden it's a memory of 4 people. Used to be 2 women, 1 man. Now it's all women. And the mind is a fascinating thing that it it gets confusing on memory. Um, I also want to do some videos on why we say what we say, because there's different word patterns, different things. What causes us to say something? It's fascinating. But do you have any experiences like that where you thought somebody was truly lying to you and it was an unintentional mistruth due to some trauma that they've been through? That's way different than manipulation and avoiding accountability. So, thought it was interesting.